3, 2, 1, action. My name's Gary Kasulu. I absolutely love the world of optometry, optics, and I've been joined by a very special guest today, and we're going to explore all the things about your career. Like, this is your life, if you like. So do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi everybody. I'm Gary Haas, and I run a business called Yorkshire Eyewear. We're based up in Yorkshire. We've got one practice in North Yorkshire in a town called Knaresborough, and one practice in East Yorkshire in a town called Howden.
Amazing. And how did you start off your optical career?
I fell into optics by mistake, really. I got offered a job in the practice and thought, oh, I quite like this. And then I thought, if I like this, how do I get better at it?
How old
And
were you at the time?
how old was I? I was about 25.
Okay, not that long ago.
So, yeah, in fact, 33 years ago. It seems like it as well at times. But I was
I've been in
25. I
optics.
was,
I've been in
sorry?
optics. I've been in optics for 30 plus years,
Yeah.
and it's just such a part of my life.
Yeah, no, I love it. I love the job. But I started off as a receptionist. I've no O levels, I've no A levels, and I found out how to become an optometrist, and I went away and I did it. And it just took me a long time, but I got there. And it was, as I say, I fell into it because I needed a job.
And that's what
And
I love. If you've been watching these interviews that we do, people often just start out a Saturday job, they do some work experience, and they work their way up the ladder. Did you go straight into optometry, or was it A levels or DO course, or how did you get
it
on there?
was it was DO course, um, and I had to argue with Tunnicliffe to get on the DO course because I didn't have the qualifications that he needed. But I got there, and then I did DO, then I did a year in practice, and then I did the full-time 3-year optometry.
Funny
So
that Tunnicliffe, that because I'm a DO like you, and
yeah,
I got the privilege of meeting some of the very best optometrists ever, and most of them, 90%, started off as a DO first.
yeah, yeah, no, absolutely. And in fact, we had a CPD day last week in Hull, and Alex Webster, who I'm sure you know, who runs the CPD for Abdo, was saying that the best optometrists are DOs beforehand. You know,
Alex is quite right on that. So, how has optics changed from the time that you started, and I really like there weren't designer frames. The
yeah,
NHS had just, for me, I remember it was big news. They were going to pay for senior citizens to have free eye tests. That was a big deal.
yeah.
Have things changed for you?
Well, first of all, obviously the designer frames and all the designer names. I started off working in a Crown Optical franchise, which was, I don't know if you remember them, but they thought they were the bee's knees, but of course they didn't realize that actually there was a much bigger world out there. I think Specsavers were just about starting at the same time, and Doug and Mary had their vision, and I think Crown thought that they were going to do something similar. But of course, what Crown didn't do was encourage optometrists and dealers to buy their franchises. I then went to work for a good independent, a guy called Neil Brosgill. Um, and Neil taught me loads. Neil taught me so much, and it was great because Neil started doing designer. He had a high fashion,
Do you
high
remember
end.
what those first designers were? It was Giorgio Armani.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
remember? And then Emporio,
yeah,
maybe, and then Dolce
yeah,
Gabbana were very
yeah.
big at the beginning.
Absolutely, absolutely. And Ray-Ban was just becoming much more popular. And those were, yeah. I mean, I remember the Armani. In fact, I'm still friends with my original Armani rep.
There you go.
From all those years ago.
All there was Memrad, and that was like a big deal. Silhouette was a big deal.
Yeah. And the other thing that was just coming out were the soft contact lenses and the dailies, and that was all huge, and that was all becoming, so optometrists were now looking at dailies. We still had RGP fitting sets, and autoclaving them, so all of that's changed. But of course, the technology's changed as well because of how we do eye examinations, how we look at the eyes, but also how we dispense spectacles. it's just so unrecognizable from those days 30 years ago.
Pretty much.
Mm.
I remember they were just monthlies. Dailies didn't even
Yeah.
exist. So if you're watching this and you're thinking, well, I would like a career in, or you're watching this and you're a receptionist or a technician or an OA, this could be you. I never thought in a million years, when on my first day, that I'd be a qualified optician and my own practice. I didn't think that was. You really are truly limited by your own ambition. Would you not agree, Gary?
Oh, completely. I mean, I am proof of that because, as I say, I left school. It took me two attempts to get four O levels. And when I applied to Bradford, Tunnicliffe turned around and said, "You haven't got the qualifications." And I turned around and I said to him, "But I've got a B in maths and minor O levels." And he said, "Go on, I'll take a chance on you."
It's funny. I've met some greats like Jay Lee. I'd never
Yeah.
met Tunnicliffe. What was he like?
Tunnicliffe was fantastic. I think he was one of the best lecturers I ever had. And he had such a passion for the industry, but more for the dispensing. Although he was an optometrist as well, he was more onto the dispensing side. And I always remember in what he did. And again, he taught me so much. I learned so much, and I think he was a brilliant lecturer. But not everybody liked his style.
Well, it's funny. It's the second time his name's come up this week because I went to visit a practice, and they've papered it. Their wallpaper is the Tunnicliffe, the optics Tunnicliffe, in their wallpaper.
Yeah,
All the ray diagrams, like unbelievable.
brilliant. I actually, do you know what? I think that's really quick.
Very clever.
I actually spoke to him earlier this year, because just through optics, but his wife had an eye problem. And I spoke to him, and I didn't realise because you just get a name. And I said, "You're not the Alan Tunnicliffe that taught at Bradford." And we were reminiscing because it's 30 years ago this year that I started the DO course.
Amazing.
So, that was fantastic.
Do you mind? Would you share some of your favourite optical stories, if anything springs to mind? And this has been, you've taken us all down memory lane. I love that. I love our industry. How much we help patients, and that's the core of this thing. You kind of need to be a bit of a people person. Would you say that was a fair statement?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
The people that leave the industry are not that much into people.
No.
The people that I see stick around and enjoy every day and thrive on optics love people.
Yeah, no, they do. One of my favorite stories, and it's a little bit sort of weird, but once I'd qualified as an optometrist and I'd done my pre-reg, and I was working for Neil Brosgill in North Leeds. And if you don't know, the community in North Leeds is where a lot of the Jewish people live. And one of particular patient came in, and I knew her. We'd grown up together, and as you know, these communities, they're very tight knit. Everybody knows everybody or of everybody. And this lady came in, and she didn't look well, but she was 6 months pregnant, and she sat in the chair, and I asked her to read the chart. She was a -6, something like that, but she couldn't see the big letter. And to cut a very long story short, she had a lot of bleeding at the back of the eye, and I was seriously concerned that she had a serious problem. And I phoned the hospital and I sent her off. And I then phoned Neil because I hadn't been qualified very long. And I said to Neil, I explained who it was because I knew he would know her. And I said to Neil, "What do you think?" And his answer to me was, "I think I'm really glad it was you and not me."
Wow.
And I just thought that just resonated with him. It just stayed with me. And he was a bit tongue in cheek. It was all very funny. And I mean, it turned out a lovely story because she did have a brain tumor, but she did survive, and the baby survived, and everything was fine. But it was just it's a funny story. It's just about how we think about each other, because it is a very insular world as well. As much as we all get together, we spend a lot of our time on our own.
Yeah.
And make decisions. I have to make decisions and I don't have the backup of somebody who I can turn around and say, what do you think? You know, when you're making the decision there and then.
And what would you say, like, if you're watching this and you think, I'd like to own my own practice? What words of encouragement or tips can you give?
It's hard work. It's not easy, but it's the best thing I ever did. You know, I love doing what I do. I love all the aspects of it. I love the fact that, you know, I make the decisions with the team. You know, we all decide, but we can make them together. I love the fact that I'm my own boss, apart from the fact that my wife tells me when I'm not. You know, it's owning your own practice is great because you can make the decisions and go the direction that you want to go. And I just love that. I love the fact that I can do that. But it is hard work. You know, I often do 6 days. But,
Wow.
you know,
But you would only do that if you wanted to. If you didn't want to, you'd hire someone. So the world of optics, we've created this video to be watched and enjoyed, and maybe even inspire you to take it to the next level. If you're watching this and you think, I'd like Gary to test my eyes, that Gary, can you tell us where your practice is and maybe a contact number? And you'll feel really free. If you're in Leeds, you couldn't be looked after better.
absolutely. Well, we're just north of Leeds in a town called Knaresborough, which is next to Harrogate. We're Yorkshire Eyewear, and our number in Harrogate is 01423 799 997. Easier than that, we've got a Yorkshire Eyewear app, which is on the iOS and the other platform. We've also got a website.
Yeah.
We've got another practice which is in Howden, which is in East Yorkshire, halfway between Leeds and Hull. And that number is 01430 432 133.
I will put the details. I will put the details below in the comments. If you've got any questions, please ask. Please, if you've enjoyed it, make a comment or subscribe. And thank you, Gary. You've taken you're a busy man. You've taken a couple of minutes to share this, and I hope when you watch it back and your family watch it back, that they enjoy it too.
I hope they will. I'm sure they will. But thank you, and thank you for doing it. Thank you for promoting optometry, because we need to do it more.
I think so. Having an eye exam is so important. Let me just say, mums and dads out there, if you are watching and you don't wear glasses, that doesn't necessarily mean your children don't. So please go into your local optician and get that checked.
The earlier the better, in my opinion. The earlier the better. Get them used to having an eye
4,
test.
5. This is the kind of age that we're talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. Certainly before school. Definitely.
Do you have an area of, just to wrap up, do you have an area of optometry that you really love?
I love working with the children, particularly. I'm doing the myopia management now. I love working with the 3 and 4 year olds. I think that's fantastic. We do a lot on the colorimetry and the dyslexia as well, because I have 2 children that suffer from that.
Makes a huge difference on their reading speed, for sure.
It's fantastic. It's really good. Yeah.
Well, I really appreciate you. I really appreciate your time. We're going to call this a wrap. So 3, 2, 1, over and out.